Alright, I already went over this in the Death Egg custom follow-up video, but I guess there's no harm in saying, let's see. As I recall saying, it would probably take about somewhere between $10 and $15. Somewhere in that neighborhood would cover the cost of the materials I used to make the Death Egg robot. But not the labor. First of all, Shadow the Warhog is a fan character released in a relatively obscure video on Newgrounds, and you're just talking to me as if I know what that is, and yeah, I do happen to know what it is, but I might not have, so I'm like, the hell, did you misspell werehog? Like, I have seen people make customs of werehogified versions of Shadow. I don't really see the appeal of it. I mean, I have my werehog figure just to round out my collection, and I don't dislike the werehog. The Shadow the Warhog from that video, that's a fan character. I'm not going to go making someone else's fan character for myself. I mean, if you wanted me to make him for you, and I suppose I could, but I'm not going to make him just to make him. He's someone else's fan character. Don't know if troll or just really unobservant. What do you mean, where do I sell my customs? Where else would I sell my customs? I sell them here. I sell them on DeviantArt. I sell them on Fur Affinity and Inkbunny and anywhere else I post my artwork. Anywhere that you can basically contact me, that's where I sell them. Why? What, do you think I have some special store? You think you can just jaunt on down to my apartment and ask me to make one for you face to face? That's not very likely. I mean, that's hypothetically possible, but I don't think it's likely. Seriously, I've answered this question, so how could you not know? Next question. You are seriously trying my patience, man. Okay. Honestly, what kind of person sees a question and answer video where they're going to have questions that everybody online is going to see and is going to be responded to and would ask for a personal request in it? Seriously. This is a Q&A video about what I do and who I am. It's not for you to ask me to make you things. Personal message! Look at that, you made me scare my dog. My dog was napping on the other side of the room, and he jumped when I yelled. You drive me to frighten small animals, and I do not like you. Well, I do love me some Spider-Man, but not really into the whole Marvel universe or Marvel figures. I can't really afford to go collecting them. I don't really have the space to store a bunch more customs from different series. Not to mention that my mother would probably have a brain aneurysm and a heart attack at the same time if she found out I was going to start doing that. I mean, if you wanted a Spider-Man custom, then I could make one for you, but really, is there even any room for me to make Spider-Man customs? I mean, all the Spider-Man characters have action figures. I guess if you want me to make an obscure version of Spider-Man from an old cartoon, from the old Spider-Man cartoon, although, has Spider-Man really had such great design changes? Not really. I mean, what would I do in a custom? I mean, I'm not going to think that I can do better than the toy company, so I'm not going to make my version of a figure that already exists. So what do you mean by Spider-Man customs? If you wanted one, let me know what it would be, and I'll give you an estimate, but I can't really answer that out of hand. I don't really know for sure. Why don't I make anything? I haven't had the time to get around to it. Or there hasn't been much interest. I mean, the really definitive Metal Tails was only introduced in Sonic Unleashed literally this month. I mean, before then, I guess the brief instance where Tails was roboticized by aliens from an issue way back in the day, but has there really been an official Metal Tails from the video games or anything except for the comic book? So yeah, I mean, a real significant Metal Tails that we can expect to be a recurring character was only just introduced to the comic book this month. So, like, why you don't make Metal Tails? Like, there never was a Metal Tails to make. And even if there was, I'm not going to make everything that's under the sun. I'm one guy. I work on what I can work on in my spare time. Most of the time I'm doing commissions. I can't do everything. Why don't you make Metal Tails? Ugh, how's that feel? No. All Sculpey clays are not created equal. Some of them are more fragile. Some of them are very brittle upon being cured. Some of them are a little bit more crumbly. Some are rubbery, but not as durable as you think. So far, I think the Super Sculpey is the way to go for making custom figures. And making objects somewhat resistant to impact or chip damage, the Polymer Sculpey is the way to go. But as for any Polymer Sculpey working, I had to say no. It doesn't quite work that way. So no, not any Sculpey is as good as any other Sculpey. Super Sculpey is better for making action figures. And regular, plain old Sculpey or Sculpey 3, it's nice for what you would typically use it for, but it's too brittle for action figures. I know because my friend Andrew Strappers, he used to use Sculpey 3 for his figures, and he found that it didn't really hold up well, and his figures would often break, and he'd have to do repairs all the time. So yeah, Super Sculpey. I think it works better for figures. Not only is Mephiles Form 1 a repaint, it is actually an insultingly simple and frankly annoying kind of repaint. Because I'd have to paint light colors over dark colors when I make the shoes a slightly different color, and I change the stripes and the mouth, and that's it. So, no, I'm not going to make Mephiles Form 1 for myself, and quite frankly, I think almost anybody could make it themselves. It's really, frankly, not worth my time. I mean, I made Mephiles twice before, and that was Form 2. With all the cool crystal spikes. That actually required some fabrication. That required work and effort, and was satisfying when it was done. Unless by Mephiles Form 1 you mean the black ooze, which in that case I would recommend you just take some ink and spill it on the floor. Boom. Mephiles Form 1. So yeah, he's beneath me. I'm not going to waste my time on it. And even if I was commissioned to make it, I would probably be fairly reluctant. I've already made several videos that showed my process. Every single video that I make shows the step-by-step process of making an action figure custom. I've even made several videos that actually showed me curing the clay in front of the camera, and I've held up the tools and demonstrated. And I'm not gonna sand an action figure in front of the camera because I don't want to get freaking plastic dust all over my camera lens and never be able to clean that off because this freaking glitter never comes off. So yeah, watch my videos. Watch the existing videos. They're all basic tutorials. And if you want something more specific, go to figurerealm.com. Look up the tutorials there. You don't need me. I do want to make him, and he is on my plate for the future. But the job is, one, it's very complicated. It would be harder to me to make than Dark Enerjack, and that was a pretty complicated custom in itself. Also, it will require the Sonic and the Black Knight figure that comes with the metal gauntlet and the sword to use as a base. They don't really sell that anymore. I have one, but it's mine. I like that figure. I like that sword, and I don't want to waste it. Although my friend Andrew Strappers has a casting material, he said that he's going to try and cast molds of the sword and the gauntlet so that he can use them to mass manufacture the parts, which would be awesome. I'd ask him if he'd make me an extra sword and gauntlet so I could use them, because then I could just use any regular Sonic figure afterwards. But yeah, he's on my plate. Probably won't show up for a while though. Next question. Okay, first of all, armor is spelled with an O, not an E. I know your spell check picked up on that. Bad. Shame on you. You're asking me if I would make Lancelot, Galahad, Percival, Lamorak, the various other knights. Gawain. Knuckles was Gawain. I should have said him first. But yeah, you're asking me if I would make the Black Knight figures. Frankly, I am shocked that Jazzwares didn't, first of all. I mean, I know that they didn't have a Blaze figure back then, but that would have been a perfect time to introduce her. Why didn't they introduce her back then? I totally would have bought it, and I would have loved to have a Knight collection. The thing is, armor's hard. Armor is really hard. You have all kinds of plates and hinges that have to be there, and the figure's entire body has to be modified and sculpted over. None of those things are simple tasks at all. I mean, I could probably give it a go. Like I said, I wanted to make Excalibur Sonic, and that's basically the same challenge. I'd probably look in on it in the future, but don't expect it for a while. Not unless the storybook games become more popular. I mean, you know, once they make Blaze, Rouge, and Charmy, they're gonna be... I mean, there's gonna be Cream, Omega, and then they'd be pretty much out of main characters. Once Jazzwares makes Cream and Omega, I mean, they'd have to actually go back to older games if they wanted to find more characters. Like, once Charmy, Blaze, and Rouge are made, then you would have two figures that haven't been announced that they could make, would be Omega and Cream. Why am I repeating myself? Then they'd have to actually dig. They might have to dredge up characters like Marine, like one-shots like Marine, or Lumina, or Void, Chaos, Zero, that would probably be more likely. E102 Gamma, again, probably more likely than Void or Lumina. Bark, Bean, Knack the Weasel, Ray the Flying Squirrel, Mighty the Armadillo. They have to actually dig into classic characters for that. And who knows, they might decide to make more variants, which would include the Black Knight figures. They might even make the Secret Rings versions, Alibaba and Sinbad, and King Shahryar. Yeah, I mean, this has gone on far longer than it has to be, but yeah. I could conceivably see Jazzwares being forced to do them once they use up the regular cast, but they'd be very challenging customs to make. Already answered this question. All my videos are basic tutorials. Moving on. Again, already answered that question. Again, Tails Doll's popularity continues to confuse me. Moving on. That's another repeat question. As I said before, it was the Dark Enerjax. Let's move on to our last question. Will I be selling my figures on eBay? This actually comes up really often. The simple fact is no. You may recall earlier when I was talking about how I got into selling commissions, I mentioned that my very first Scourge figure that I sold was actually sold on eBay. The problem with eBay is that in order to sell stuff on it, you have to upgrade to a seller's account. And on the seller's account, eBay will take a little bit off of your profits every time you sell something, and it'll also charge you a $5 a month invoice, whether you sell anything or not. So I tried having it for about 2 or 3 months, and my auctions were barely getting any traffic. I was hardly getting any bids, and what few things I managed to sell went for way less than they should have. Like I said, that Scourge figure I made only went for $13.50. That was barely enough to cover the cost of the figure itself. So that was completely pointless. And you know what little profits I was able to make, those invoices were actually cutting into them quite a significant bit. So I said, screw it. No, this is not a viable business model. So I canceled my seller's account on eBay and just decided to sell my customs, through personal commission. So, yeah, I will not be using eBay for any time in the foreseeable future. I will just be selling directly to you. And don't ask me to make something that I would then hope to sell later on, because I'm getting the idea that when people are asking me, hey, can you make this thing? Not for me, just to make it. They're probably hoping that I'll put it up on eBay, but I'm not going to do that, because like I said, that just never yields positive results. Okay, is there anything I can add? I believe I'm done. Alright, so this has been my Q&A video. I hope that you all have enjoyed it. And I apologize for any impatience I showed or any outbursts. But, I just have a couple of little pet peeves about people who don't know how to communicate properly. This is a modern age. Everybody should be educated in these topics. But I think that I have succeeded, and I hope that that people will be able to just refer to this if they have any questions in the future. If anyone would like to see a Q&A again in the future, perhaps in a few months, please let me know in the comments. And yes, have a good day. This is Toy Customizer Wakeangel2001 signing off.